Great. Well, a very warm welcome to Max. This takes us back a bit. We've known each other for a few years now, far too long. But yeah, absolutely delighted for what we're going to be talking about. It's a very exciting time for us at SIS. But first, we better explain. They know my history. Why don't you just talk to me a little bit about the formation of HOKO and your time in the sports industry?
I've been in the sports industry probably as long as you have, a very long time. Starting off initially and working for some of the big agencies across over in Asia Pacific, specifically, really concentrating on the golf and the football and various IPs that those big agencies worked across, and then. After that, moved to the Middle East, where again I worked for a very big American agency and helped set up the office. And it was really in the Middle East where I wanted to create my own business. So we built out a business as a traditional sports marketing agency to begin with, that covered all the areas of event management, consultancy, sponsorship, all those sort of traditional areas that a lot of agencies got involved in. And then along that period, most of the time we were working on football or cricket. We started to engage back in 2012 with Formula One, looking at areas of hospitality and sponsorship with teams, and we created a product out of there which was called HOKO, and it was it began as its life as a sort of B2C product, with obviously Formula One and the crowd that you get there is a whole wide variety of a demographic and age and also from an economic background. So we wanted to cover all the different areas to begin with, and as it evolved and as Formula One exponentially grew, we became a B2B product, which we are as of today, and we went through a major rebrand a few years ago, but we are very much a B2B brand now, and we were lucky enough with obviously what happened during with the Netflix Drive to Survive and how that really snowballed Formula One and the amount of brands that want to be associated with it, and the teams that commercialized their cars in terms of the sponsors. We serviced a lot of different clients, be it with Formula One client sponsors or team sponsors, as well as our own clients who are B2B or ultra high net worths. As we are today, we grew from 1 race to 16 races. So that's kind of been the journey of where we are at present.
Well, it's an amazing story, but I think that, you've spent a lot of time with world rights holders. I mean, we obviously know the ICC, so you've done at the very, very top of cricket, you've done at the top of golf. I mean, Formula One's kind of the pinnacle or the benchmark that other sports measure themselves against inside the industry. And as you say, those rights holders, do you get a feel that there's been a kind of change in behaviour? I mean, they've been driven heavily by the media rights, right? And I think that's what the Formula One have understood probably better than ever with, as you mentioned, Drive to Survive. But from a brand engagement and a brand interaction, do you see it beginning to change? Do you feel it's changing at all?
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, the spotlight really has been on Formula One, and I think everyone is going to have to catch up about what Formula One is, or they need to look at it and really learn from them, because it's been amazing what they've done in terms of, they've always had that base of TV numbers, people watching it back 80s, 90s, and you still had 500 million people tuning into it, and then it went through a bit of a period where it went through a little bit of a lull. Well, I think they dropped like 100-200 mil off that, but effectively now you're looking at north of 600 million people watching every single race. So if you think about that, that's a mini World Cup effectively every weekend that Formula One operates, and the amount of brands, the brands want to be associated with that, because the sheer number one on the in terms of the actual TV numbers, two, the hospitality and the experience of that weekend is second to none in my opinion, because the economic impact that it has on a city every time it goes there is remarkable. You go to these cities and it feels completely different that weekend. The energy, the buzz, the amount of people that are traveling in for it. it really does transform that city for a weekend, and the sponsors and the partners and everyone that's associated come to that. It's very hard. The hospitality, again, I think, has moved to a different level from every other sporting. I think some of the other sporting IPs or some of the other governing bodies there have been a little bit stuck. I think their hospitality is exactly the same as what it was 15, 20 years ago. Formula One has a whole multitude of different products that you can get involved with, and it's for me, it's the pinnacle of hospitality as well, and that's certainly what we jumped on, when we were doing the business there. But I think from a brand perspective, it ticks pretty much every single box, which is why I think it's got ahead of everyone else.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting you're talking about how you've evolved into B2B, because I mean, when we were a little bit younger, Paddock Club used to be kind of the benchmark, and I mean, I remember we've been in Paddock Club sitting on plastic seats on the side of a sort of dirty track, with an umbrella. It was like being in a cafe somewhere. Yeah. And clearly you guys have recognised that the B2B business needs a richer environment for it to thrive. Have you seen that within the development of your own brand attract other big brands? Because you're working with some of the biggest brands out there now, aren't you? Some of the biggest spenders in Formula One.
Yeah. They are. I mean, as I was alluding to before, I think that the hospitality, these businesses, your CEOs and your chairmen, they get invited to a lot of these things, and we get invited to everyone. I mean, these people get invited, and what they don't want to do these days is go to the same product every weekend, because then they're just not going to turn up to it. And what Formula One has done well is that there are lots of different products that you can go to, and the difference there is that Formula One has also been very clever in mixing sport with entertainment, because it is really now, F1 is a sport and it's also entertainment. So people that are going there need to be there. They want to be seen to be there. They want to do their social media there. They want to do whatever. But the B2B people also want, or your businesses that are there are looking for something different that you're going to be able to do every single day. Because if you're there for the weekend, you want to be able to touch different products along the way. And that's what has been successful. And also, the way people are consuming content or consuming sport these days is they're not watching it the whole time. So the whole point is that you're doing business there, but you're also entertaining there. So you can watch bits of the race, but what we've noticed is people consume a bit of the race and then they turn around and then they can have their conversations, they can do their business conversations, and they want to relax and stuff, and then they can re-engage with the race over that 90 minutes, but they're not fully watching the race anymore. You're getting very, very few people at Formula One who are just there to watch the race completely from throughout the whole thing. So again, I think that's what they've been very clever with in doing that, and also with the activations that you can do and the experience that you have when you walk into Formula One, which for me again is second to none in terms of what they do. It's the pinnacle of that area.
Well, that kind of beautifully brings me to the reason why we're here. Because ignoring our history, it's been a really exciting few months for you and I to sort of build towards a partnership between Sport Impact and HOKO. All of the reasons that you've given us about the expansion and the quality and the experience and the engagement of B2B, it's the reason why we have been so excited about joining hands with you guys. And I think that your point around you need to entertain people, we're in a space around sustainability which we need to make entertaining. No one's done that. And that was what 2024 Sport Impact Summit was about. Let's engage people and get them to learn something, but also do it in an environment that's special. And that's why we've been so excited. What do you think our partnership will bring? Clearly, we've got some shared goals. What do you think it will bring in the next 12 months?
I think from a business perspective of what we're on, obviously IP is what everyone wants to be associated. Your traditional agencies back in the day when we were first getting into this were very much you were looking after the IPs of all the big rights holders or whatever it is. But I think there's been a shift as well in terms of agencies and people working that you want to own the IP now, because if you're owning the IP, you control every single aspect of that business and can drive it forward however you want to do it. And also it has that value behind it because you own that IP. So that's very much where our business has been. And obviously, for us, with you with SIS, it's a natural progression to move on to that, because sport transgresses so many different areas, and I believe that within the sustainability area, it can have a huge impact as well, because we know what sport can do, and to have an impact across your personal life, across business, all the different areas, it has a huge impact on it. And I think sustainability is going to be crucial to that moving forward as well. And I think one of the best platforms to be able to do that will be through sport. And for us, we working together with you guys, we want to be able to give that platform to it. And also our clients are clearly going to be craving that and wanting to be associated with the sustainability, because they've got to be across all of that. You look at Formula One and what they're trying to do between now and 2030 and beyond in terms of the sustainability side of it is pretty dramatic, and we want to be a part of that. And a lot of our clients are clearly asking about what's the next steps? How do we showcase that we're doing that? If we're part of this Formula One circus or whatever different sport we're in, how can we showcase to everyone that we do care about all these different areas? So I think that's really something that, is just adding another string to us. It's very, very crucial in terms of the next step or the evolvement of our IP, and, from that perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the exciting bit, isn't it? That, having been in the sports ecosystem for a long time, we're coming across someone that didn't exist not very long ago.
Yeah.
The sustainability manager or the social impact manager, those roles did not exist 3-5 years ago, definitely. And so they've got their own challenges, and brands are now looking to those individuals to go, well, you're going to have to steer us through a course that we don't really know. And that's certainly from Sport Impact's point of view, where that expertise in that field, bringing that into the sports ecosystem, the Oxford SDG labs, the scientists and the academics that we engage in our mix, it creates a very powerful cocktail that, even with brands like McLaren, I mean, huge brands, they'll come to an event, they'll actually learn something. And they can bring their clients, which they did with Deloitte. They showed their amazing circular economy. And it's kind of mutual learning, but in an environment where you can entertain the CEO and the CFO and your key sponsors. So that's been interesting. And that kind of brings us to this amazing position, which I would like to claim was deliberate, but you know me too well, and it's not. So we're here the day before the UAE launches an amazing piece of regulation that I think everybody in sustainability around the world has been hoping these days come. And the UAE climate law comes into effect tomorrow. Now, we've got great expansion plans, and you guys are going to take us into lots of different markets. But I guess my question is how progressive regulation like this is going to impact the sports ecosystem, because no other countries have you got laws that are now dictating you're going to have to behave certain ways or be better at it.
Yeah.
How do you see it impacting this region when clearly there's a massive draw from international sport to come here? They're going to have to follow certain rules, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a huge game changer, and you've been doing business here long enough. I've been in this region for over 18 years. These guys are always at the forefront of change, in terms of what they want to do. And it's just very, very brave for them to be going out there and making this sort of law, because, of course, lots of the governments are tiptoeing around around a lot of these areas. But effectively, they've gone ahead and moved ahead, which was just huge and brilliant from their sort of side of things. And I think that will, of course, have a massive knock-on effect, because this region has a lot of the best sporting events globally every year, and it's only continuing to grow. We've got the World Cup coming to Saudi. We've got all these different events continually are coming here, and that will not change. And I think a lot of the other governments are seeing how you can actually implement things without having too much of a negative effect or causing too much uproar. And that's, I think, a lot of the other areas are just too worried to put something like that into place. But they can now look at this and see how this is implemented and then try to follow it. And then, we are going to be the guys that created it. Yeah. And that's going to be the amazing thing.
Yeah, and that's the beauty is, they are going to genuinely lead in a space which you wouldn't necessarily associate them with. If it come out of New Zealand or somewhere like that, you might have done. And they're going to set standards for sport to follow. And, other countries will adopt it because it started here. And I think that's really the exciting thing. Brave, but actually really necessary. And the trickle-down effect that we will see, no doubt, will be brands, both event brands and sponsors going, oh, how do I manage this? And that's hopefully what Sport Impact can help them with. And that kind of brings me on to the conversation around tech. Sport and tech has always been a bit of a weird relationship. I think the industry hasn't been brilliant with it, but you guys have recently announced an amazing bit of AI tech. Give us a little insight into that.
Yeah, I mean, we have launched a product called Humane, which is effectively, a lot of our business is around creating amazing experiences or making per se like our Formula One suites beautiful and everything, and that has to come from somewhere, and we obviously have an amazing creative department, but what we've realized is obviously I think AI has become is only going to continue to snowball and grow bigger and bigger, and what we've thought, because we already have a creative department, we thought really, and because we spend so much time creating so many different aspects, we wanted to mix the AI in terms of being able to create something, be it a campaign or a logo, whatever you wanted to create as a business, but have the AI aspect of it, but also have the human aspect, because if you're wanting to run a campaign or wanting something, you've also got to have that human element to it in terms of what you want to create, because you've got to have that touch, feel, and all the emotion that associated with something like a sport, and that can only really come from a human sort of touch that can read how that story is going to be told or whatever. So what we've created is a mix between that, where you are using AI to create it, but you do still need that human touch to it, so that you can create these unforgettable creative experiences or whatever we're trying to do for our client. So that's really, what we have. We already have had this start, but we can see that this is where everything's moving to in terms of the AI. So we've had to be forward thinking as well and said, well, let's invest into this so that we can build that within our own business as well.
So, I mean, that is great to get out there early, and I think it's fascinating to see. So you could go to a Sport Impact event, you can experience your amazing experiences, but also, if you are from the industry, you can then sample and understand how can you accelerate your brand through using Humane in the way that normally they'd have gone out to some creative agency, had to wait for however long that takes, pay whatever that takes. So what we love is the collaboration at Sport Impact, and one of the other things that we're adding alongside you is Scoreboard, which is another amazing bit of AI, incredibly similar in that it's got these humans who've spent 30 years each building sustainability programs, and now they've converted it into the power of AI. So our journey, when you go through that system of how do I become sustainable, it's a 90-day process just to count, what my emissions are. So Scoreboard will give you a score, and it will turn the 90 days into 90 minutes. And obviously that saves 90% of the cost. So, what I'm really excited about, how SIS can glue technologies like Scoreboard, like Humane, and how we can pass that on to, the attendees, the other brand partners that are associated with this, and demonstrate there's a better way of doing stuff. So I think that's going to be really exciting for us to collaborate on. Well, it kind of, we could go on for hours. We usually do, but we're not, because people will get bored of listening to us. So just to sort of round this up, just give me the next sort of 12 months in terms of the rollout of where HOKO, SIS are going to be operating in the next sort of 12 months.
So I think I think our first stop will probably be in Singapore, where we're going to be looking to do a masterclass or some sort of event in and around that. especially around the Formula One. Obviously, Formula One in Singapore is kind of their pinnacle event every year, and pretty, the who's who of everyone in Asia Pacific and globally comes into Singapore during that week. They also have Token 49 during that. There's a whole host of sort of side of events to that. So we feel that that's a brilliant place for us to start working with SIS in terms of launching something there where we can have that meaningful conversations with the right people in the right rooms, talking across a whole host of different industries, including F1. So I think that that's probably the starting place, and then we're looking to work in Abu Dhabi. So I think Abu Dhabi is the next one, which is obviously the final race of the F1 season. Probably the biggest event on the Formula One calendar because it's the end and everyone wants to be there. The racing this season has been pretty exciting, which is good for once. So that's kind of, we'll make it, hopefully it will go to the last race. Not many times it has, but when it does, it sort of does transform it. But we're looking again to do something, we're going to do a full summit there where we believe, and from Abu Dhabi, they also have Abu Dhabi Finance Week, which is the week afterwards. So the who's who for finance is there, the who's who for most people are in Abu Dhabi then. So we're certainly looking forward to building that as our real major event. And of course, with the laws that are coming in tomorrow, there's going to be a whole host of people that will be probably scrambling to be involved in that event. So I think that will be a real milestone event for us in terms of probably the biggest one we will be doing to date, which will really showcase where we're at. And then excitingly, I think next year we've been obviously discussing where we're wanting to go. We in some advanced conversations with China, taking it into Shanghai, which is again exciting, really, really exciting. They are again on a major push through that sustainability piece, and they really do get sport in terms of what they want big IPs there, and they want to be associated with it. So I think that's really good. And then of course we're looking into the States in terms of Miami and in terms of moving into there from there and building out something in Miami from that perspective. So and next year looking into Europe, I think there's a whole host of cities that will be very interested in working with us. I think we'll keep that under wraps until we know who wants to be associated and build out what we're trying to do. But I think the roadmap over the next 12 months is very exciting, and it's they're all just around the corner. So we have a tremendous amount of planning to get into place to get these all going. And I think tomorrow will only make it probably our job even harder, because I think there'll be more people coming to us asking for us to be having these summits in their cities. So I think it's going to be an interesting, and I'd love to sit down in 12 months' time to showcase where we are and go, wow, have we actually?
We'll be even older.
Exactly.
No, that's fantastic, Max. I think as you said, that it's a really exciting partnership. We're delighted to work together. What I would say is, for those people who are listening and want to get involved and find out more about HOKO, find out more about Humane, Scoreboard, and the future events, just go and visit the Sport Impact Summit website, and you can find all the details there. You can sign the declaration, which was an amazing collaboration we did with the Ministry of Sport back in December last year, and that just demonstrates the commitment of sport in this community. The declaration will open the doors to all of these things we've been talking about. So, Max, great pleasure to have you, mate.
Thanks.
Thanks very much, and what a year we've got ahead.
Yeah.